So what I was thinking this morning is I brainstormed some questions. You probably saw those in the description for this presentation. I was thinking that we would use these as a guide, but we're not limited to these. So if there's other things that you want to talk about in your group about ways to save time and be more efficient, don't feel like you have to follow these. But these are ones that came to me. Maybe you have the same questions. What's the most effective way to have students submit their work? And I've talked a little bit about some of the things I do, but probably you all do some other things that might be more effective. How do you keep up with grading online work when you do not have time to sit down at your computer? That is a big one. And I will have to admit that I have resorted to printing off student assignments, taking them with me when I couldn't take my computer somewhere, and writing on them and mailing them back. Now, I don't do that for the whole class, but if I get so far behind on reading assignments that I don't think I'm going to have enough computer time to catch up, I have done that. I have taken them to Florida with me and read them on the beach and come back and mailed them back to my students. So I've done it, but it's not very efficient. What I was glad to learn last summer is that you can download those assignments through the Grade Center and then have them on your computer and take them with you to read when you're sitting in the doctor's office or someplace where you can take your computer with you. So you might have some other ideas for good ways to catch up when you get behind with reading assignments. This one is one I think is really important, is how do we make students more independent? Because that's part of time sucking, is when they have when the students are very needy, and you know that if you don't help them, then it's going to be worse later on. And so you spend a lot of time guiding the student. So one of the things I found that helps with this creating independence and saving time for you is to anticipate what the students might need. So you have to think like a student. So if a student is reading your description in your class, you have to step back and think, okay, will they get what I'm saying? Will they know where this is? How can I explain this in a better way so that they understand what I mean? Because when they don't understand, then they ask you, then you have to re-explain it, and then somebody else asks, you can see it's just like this domino effect that takes your time. It isn't that you don't want to help the students, but remember, we're about being efficient. When we have to do that too often, we get tired and burned out, and then we're not good for any of the students. So one of the things that I do is I make things really clear. I know this is probably hard to read. I just pulled this out of my class. But I tell them how to get a hold of me, when I check my email, what my phone number is. You may not want to give your phone number out, but I don't mind. Because some people do better talking on the phone than reading, and sometimes it takes too long to type everything they need to know. You'd rather talk to them on the phone. I tell them when they can expect me to read their assignments, approximately how long it might take, and not to worry if they don't hear from me for a little while, because that's what you get too. Did you get my assignment? When are you going to have it done? So anticipate what they might want to know. Now that's not coddling, I don't think. Some people might think it is. It's self-preservation for me. I don't want to have to answer all those emails with all those questions. So I just put it out there so they can see it. Now, another thing that you can use is to make sure, one other thing you can do is make sure your descriptions are clear. And so I give them the steps for what to do and where to go if they have trouble. And I just give them the help desk phone number. It's right there. Don't call me, because I don't know how to help you with that. Call them. And I'll tell them, make sure you work on this during the time when the help desk is open, so you can give them a call. Another thing that I found is that within Blackboard, there in the manual, there are descriptions for how to do things, and send them there, so you're not having to retype all that stuff. So if you anticipate what they're going to need and make that clear up front, you will save yourself a lot of time. Let's go back to these questions. The last one is, how can I keep up with all of the emails from my students? One thing that I've done I've done before. I'm not doing it right now, but because I moved everything into Blackboard. But one thing I've done is have a separate file. And so any email that comes in from students goes into that file. And I set it up so it just automatically went into that file. And so I knew that all of their stuff was in this one file. And it was a little bit easier to keep track of it. Because I always have that fear I'm going to miss an email. You know, if you don't read it right away and then you forget to go back to it, and in 2 weeks you scroll up to see what you've missed and there's something really important. So, but you all might have some other ideas for how to manage emails from students. So like I said, these are just guiding questions, a place to get you started. If there's other things that you want to talk about, feel free to go ahead. What I'm going to ask you to do is to kind of form yourselves into small groups. This isn't the best room for small groups. Sometimes it works if people turn around and talk to the people behind them rather than down the aisle. But I'm going to ask you to share some of the things that you do. Pick out a couple of your really best suggestions. And we'll come back together at the end. And I'm going to type those up in a list that we can post on Blackboard so you can have access to it. So go ahead, kind of set yourself up into some grooves. See if somebody wants to take some notes about your best ideas. So go ahead. I'm going to 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 go ahead. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. List. Share some best goes up into that we can end. list. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. List. Share some best goes up into that week in the end. Go ahead and go. 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 Go ahead and go.